Are you really beating Taylor Swift, by the way?
Yeah, I did. The J6 is beating Taylor Swift. It's Donald Trump and the J6 prisoners.
The Pledge of Allegiance.
On iTunes and on Amazon and on Billboard, which is the big deal. #1, Donald Trump. So now I feel like Elvis, because now we've done The Apprentice. That was a great success. We did. Now I've done a recording or whatever you call it. But no, it was #1. And you know what that is? That's a tribute to the fact that people feel the J6 people have been very unfairly treated.
That's Donald Trump bragging about a song that he made with January 6th insurrectionists that he calls the J6th Choir, which he plays at his rallies, if you even want to call them that, before he gives his speech and makes people pledge allegiance to the J6 Choir. I'm Ben Meiselas. I can't get over that. And I am joined by Will Rollins, Democratic congressional candidate running for the 41st Congressional District, congressional seat, currently held by Maga Republican Ken Calvert, whose views align just perfectly with the ones I just showed you there of Donald Trump. Will, welcome back to our show.
Great to be back with you, Ben.
So, Will, in addition to being a candidate for that congressional seat in the 41st Congressional District, before running, your career was as a federal prosecutor. Now, the bona fides of a federal prosecutor, one would think, would cross partisan lines, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. You serving as a national security prosecutor who helped prosecute January 6th defendants, that was your job. You would think that Americans would all rally behind that. But right now, you've got the Democrats and the pro-democracy community. And you have, on the other hand, MAGA Republicans who, as you just heard, their leader are singing songs with the J6 insurrectionists and supporting them. So I want to show you this, Will, because this just baffled me and I want to get your reaction. So you posted on your various social media platforms where you have accounts the following. My name is Will Rollins. I am a former national security prosecutor who helped prosecute January 6th defendants. Again, you would think everybody would say, great. But the MAGA Republicans had a very different response to this. So I want to share with you different ones, and I want to get your response. Can we do that? Can we play that little game here on the MeidasTouch Network?
Yes, of course.
Okay, this MAGA Republican influencer account called, well, this is Matthew Marsden, writes the following. People like this, referring to you, people like this should never, ever hold positions of power. What do you say to that, Will?
I mean, mind-blowing. You know, people who worked directly for Donald Trump, his former chief of staff, 4-star generals in the U.S. military, former secretaries of defense, people he appointed have said, don't ever let this guy near the Oval Office again. And to see folks out there online failing to understand the threat that he poses to our democracy, not to mention the horrible music taste that he has. And I can just say objectively that every Taylor Swift song ever written, even probably back to her jingles in middle school, are infinitely and the January 6th stuff that Trump is now touting out there. I mean, it's really sad. And I think the good news and silver lining in this is in a district like mine, where I was able to attract support from the regular Republican voters who I think are increasingly becoming detached from the MAGA movement and this insanity. They are breaking our direction. That's why I was able to get the support of the former Republican assembly leader in California in the last election, the former Republican sheriff in Riverside County, because there are still people of good faith left in that party who don't agree with Marsden or the other folks online who are going to vilify somebody who worked in counterterrorism and law enforcement to protect every single American just because they also worked on January 6 cases.
Can I show you a few others?
Please.
All right. This is from Mike Davis. This is what he has to say about you. He took off his partisan mask. The Biden DOJ is filled with smug, partisan Democrat operatives like this candidate for Congress. They politicized and weaponized the DOJ to go after their political enemies. They are, referring to you, the real dangers to the republic. What do you think about that, Will? And that's coming from a MAGA Republican influencer, Mike Davis, right there, who has considerable clout right there. I mean, you're talking about someone who's the former chief counsel for nominations of the Senate Judiciary Committee. This was a law clerk for Justice Gorsuch. This is someone who Donald Trump touts as who he could have as his next attorney general. And that's what he's saying about you for being a prosecutor within the Department of Justice who prosecuted insurrectionists. This is Trump's number one pick, people think, to be the AG.
I think this is an example of a guy who really is not a Republican. And there is a difference between MAGA and regular Republicans. And they are going to learn that in 2024 with the loss of support from their own party for a nominee who by that point will likely be convicted of several felonies. And I just think the irony of those kinds of comments online, it's like I worked for a Republican governor, my first job out of college, even though I've been a lifelong Democrat, because I believe in public service and I believe in putting country over party. And I worked for, Attorney General Loretta Lynch. I worked for Attorney General Jeff Sessions. I worked for Attorney General Bill Barr. I worked for Attorney General Merrick Garland. And I worked alongside Republicans and Democrats who didn't talk about politics and law enforcement because we cared more about the mission. And we knew that politics and the rule of law are separate. And so I think if you've become somebody who defines whether you believe in the rule of law or law enforcement according to whatever one man tells you who refuses to accept the outcome of democratic elections, you may want to seek some professional help to get back into reality and recognize that this country is about more than one person. And a lot of people are dead to give us the country that we have today and the rule of law that protects all of us, regardless of political party.
I'll show you this next post right here by a right-wing influencer named Alan Roberts. And notice I don't refer to them as Republicans or conservative either, because there's nothing conservative about them. Here's what Alan Roberts posts. He calls for you to be arrested. Says that you should be arrested instead of elected. And the basis, apparently, for which he says that you should be arrested is because you made a post that said that you are a former national security prosecutor who helped prosecute January 6th defendants.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just wonder what they think about my other work at the department. Are they mad that I went after the number 2 prescriber of opiates in the state of California? Are they mad that I put in prison drug dealers? Are they mad that I put people who committed wire fraud and stole retirement savings from seniors in prison? Are they mad that I went after a university professor who sold missile guidance chips to the Chinese military? I mean, these are bipartisan issues of public safety. And just because I went after the folks and helped my colleagues in DC go after the folks who assaulted the US Capitol, I should be thrown in prison. And I mean, this is the irony of what's happened to this party. I mean, this is an assault that left 5 cops dead. This is a party that used to claim to be the party of law and order. And I always used to say and I still say that, the folks that are Republicans in my district and a lot of my Republican family and friends, I mean, your party used to stand for 4 basic principles, right? Law and order, personal accountability, the rule of law, and hawkishness on Russia. It stands for none of those principles anymore as a result of one person. And I think if you've fallen into a trap where you are more likely to support one human being over your own country, over your own fellow Americans in any context, just because the guy tells you to do something, you've got to take a hard look in the mirror and ask yourself, how far can this possibly go? Am I willing to throw everything out in service of the former host of The Celebrity Apprentice, right? I mean, I just think that America is about so much more than that. And we have got to move beyond this one cult of personality.
And the MAGA Republican member of Congress who currently holds that seat in the 41st Congressional District, who you are running against, and who within just a few hundred votes, you almost won that race the last time around. It was super close. Ken Calvert said that he hopes that charges are dropped against insurrectionists, and he is someone who voted against certifying the 2020 presidential election after the insurrection as well. And so your final thoughts and comments as we see the comments of people who are calling from MAGA Republicans or MAGA in general, who are calling for you to be arrested, who are attacking you for your service to this country as a federal prosecutor, prosecuting insurrections. And then you see that the person that you are running against, the member of Congress, has views that line up specifically perfectly with these individuals. And I didn't even mention, if you go back and look at Ken Calvert's history, the level of hypocrisy on the personal side, that people can look up what the young Ken Calvert said and did back in 1994. I'll just leave it at that. But if you can just address who you're running against and how that individual seems to represent these views right here, that of these MAGAs who are attacking you.
Yeah, I mean, keeping with our theme of irony, right? Donald Trump promised to drain the swamp, and Ken Calvert is the epitome of the swamp. This is a guy who's been in office since 1992, who's seen his net worth increase by up to $20 million since he was first elected. Somebody who Fox News did a 7-minute segment talking about my opponent's corruption and use of earmarks for personal gain. Somebody who the National Review has written articles covering about his ethical issues. Somebody whose former colleagues in the House actually tried to keep him off the Appropriations Committee because they were so worried about his ethical issues. And I think what's emblematic of people like Ken Calvert, who are so willing to pander to this MAGA base, who are willing to throw out the entire republic in service of themselves, is they have learned that power is incredibly lucrative. And you can see that in Calvert's own financial disclosures. So as long as he stays in power, as long as he keeps making money, he's going to stick with MAGA. And that's, at the end of the day, what politics is about and power is about for somebody like him. And it's exactly why we need a new generation of leadership in Congress to get some of the basic anti-corruption reforms done that really should apply to people in both political parties. But at the end of the day, people have got to vote for this country and our democracy in 2024, because it is all on the line next year. But this is a flippable seat, and I am incredibly proud to be back in this fight and have become one of the party's top pickup opportunities in California. And I know we will finish the job next year.
Well, Will Rollins, we appreciate you joining us here on the MeidasTouch Network. I want to remind everybody they can go to willrollinsforcongress.com to learn more about you. That's willrollinsforcongress.com. Everybody, you can check that out and see where Will stands on all of the issues, but I can confirm they all stand for democracy. See you next time. Thanks for joining us here on the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers thanks to your support.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.